The purpose of process is performance. We do good process management to enable good process improvement to improve organisational performance. Process performance improvement is important, and it's seldom done as well as it could be. Improvements aren't delivered as planned, the wrong processes are improved, managers and their teams are sceptical, executive support is minimal. But it doesn't have to be like that. Let's explore that a little more. Process improvement needs improving. Perhaps that's the first process we should be working on. But isn't everyone doing it already? It's tempting to think that organisations have sorted this problem. Surely there are many people in many organisations who are working to improve how things work. Surely everybody's doing lots of process improvement. What's the problem? Aren't we already there at the holy grail of continuous improvement? I don't think so. Sure, lots of people are doing some things, and some of that is great work. But I think it can be even better, because oftentimes continuous improvement seems to me to have these two problems. It's not exactly continuous, and sometimes it's hard to find the improvement, the real benefits that are sustained in the long term in the business. I think we can do better. Let's have a look first at perhaps what some of the problems are, and then how we might go about fixing those. So continuous improvement, let's just tease this out a little. What is it we mean? What are we trying to achieve here? What's the problem we're trying to fix? That's always the question. So I think when we say continuous, and by the way, my book editor always told me that it shouldn't be continuous because it's continual. We're not doing it every second continuously, but we're doing it continually. But we'll leave that for the book editors. Continuous improvement is the term that we like. And I think it means that we're continuously searching for insight. We want deep knowledge of the process. We need to make wise choices about which processes to improve if we're going to have optimum process improvement. So we're always searching for those performance gaps, which might be a current or emergent problem or an opportunity gap. So it's continuous, I think, certainly in the sense that we're continuously searching for when the next improvement can be found. And that's important that we're doing that. And then improvement. What do we mean by improvement? There's another video on this topic about proven valued business benefits. And this sets the bar very high, and unashamedly so. That's what we need to be doing. We need to be delivering benefits to the business, valued by the business, and about which there is no dispute. So proven and valued, so it's got to be valued by the business, not just by the BPM team. And it's got to be a benefit that's actually of benefit to the business, and they acknowledge that. Proven, valued business benefits. That's what we mean by an improvement. Because it is possible to make improvements to processes that, yes, it's technically an improvement, but nobody cares. So you can mark it up and say, yes, we improved the process. But if nobody notices that you've improved the process, have you actually made an improvement? I don't think so. I think there are many ways in which you can fail, you know that. But here are three important ones that I'd like to focus on in this video about accountability, about reputation, and about leadership. I think if we've got a cross-functional process, and all of our processes that we're going to work on are in some way cross-functional, we might have lots of people executing the various pieces of it, but if it's nobody's job to look at the whole process, then we have no accountability. So we might have half a dozen people who are executing their piece of it, and they think they're doing it very well, exactly as they were told to, but the whole thing is not working. So we need to have some sense of whose job is it to be accountable for the performance of a cross-functional process. And unless we have that, then why would the process improve? I mean, nobody's even tasked to make that happen, so it's not going to happen. The reputation of process improvement in the organisation may well have suffered, and perhaps rightly so, from past examples of process improvement work. You know, people are going to be saying, or at least thinking, yeah, we've been to your process workshops. That's a good waste of time. Nothing ever happens. Nothing changes. We draw lots of diagrams. We get excited for a moment, but nothing changes. So, why bother? Well, if the reputation of process improvement is not good, then how could the outcomes be good? So we've got to do some internal marketing. Process improvement has got to be something that people welcome, not avoid. They've got to believe in it. We've got to do something about the brand internally. And leadership is so important, isn't it? If this is a picture of the group of executives who actively support and are committed to process work in your organisation, if this is them assembled, then you've got a problem, obviously. So we've got to be able to sell it to leadership, haven't we? And leadership's up and down throughout the organisation, of course, but certainly executive leadership. We might start our process work bottom up or even middle out, but for it to be sustained and really effective in the long term, we actually have to add top down as well. So we need leadership support. I mean, it's about executing strategy. It's about perhaps changing the way in which we allocate resources. It's about prioritising improvements and deciding which processes need to be improved. I mean, that needs executive decision makers ultimately. So we need to be able to do that. So we need to fill those seats. We can't get anywhere if that's the meeting to endorse our process work at the executive level. That's not going to go far. Okay, so enough of the negatives. How can we improve process improvement? Lots of things that we could talk about. Let's just look at a couple here. Some quick background, and there are other videos about this. One thing we must have is proper process governance. So we need those three elements of authority, support and ownership. We need all of this here to be working. It's not that difficult to put together. We have the Office of BPM or a Centre of Excellence or Organisational Excellence team. We have process owners or whatever you want to call them in your organisation. And we have some executive decision-making body that can resolve the differences that will inevitably come up. So we need this mechanism of governance and control and to be able to have any chance at all of making process improvement important and successful. Another video in this series deals with the circles, and the circles are essentially about, on the left-hand side, we've got the process ownership circle, and that's about making those wise choices about which process to improve. And then we go on and improve that by whatever method we use in the PI or process improvement circle. Because it's fundamentally true that we can't have optimum process improvement if we're working on the wrong processes. So we have to firstly choose which processes to work on. And we can't work on all of them. I mean, there are thousands or tens of thousands of them, depending where you are in the architecture. So we have to make choices about which ones we're going to work on. And the way to do that is in the PO circle. Find that video if you want to know more about that. So how do we get ourselves to this point where we are successfully running process improvement projects, and we've got the CEO up the front there congratulating everyone, and everyone's excited and everyone wants to do more and more of it? This is where we want to be, isn't it? Because as soon as you had one of these, the next one is easier, and then easier and easier. So once we can get past those negatives and start delivering, showing the benefits, then we start to have a much easier pathway. And it is possible. I have been in meetings like this, and maybe you have as well. I hope so. None of us have been in enough of them, but it is possible and we can do it. So let's pull those threads together. So I think process improvement can't be about random acts of management. It can't be that here's a problem, someone go and fix it. Or once a year we'll do some process improvement work. It can't be like that. It's got to be much more deliberate. It requires leadership, and leadership at every level, not just at the top. I've worked in organisations where we had amazing support at the chief executive level, but there are a lot more middle managers than there are chief executives. And if it doesn't work at the middle manager level, if they're not excited, then it's not going to go any further. That could be a great impervious mass through which you can't get anything done. So leadership at every level is going to be important. And look, this is about human beings working together to try and achieve some things, sometimes difficult things. So communication. It's always going to be about that. And communicating why we're doing it, how we're doing it, how did it go, what worked, what didn't, all of those things. This is communication 101. But sometimes we forget to do that in our process work. Ultimately, for this to become embedded in the organisation, it's going to be embedded in culture, isn't it? We're going to simply understand that part of our job, part of everyone's job, is to be contributing to the improvement of processes. And it's got to be systemic. We don't want 25 different ways of doing this. We want one way. Not to be too rigid about it, but we want people to be working together. We want it to be collaborative. We want people to be able to contribute. So it's got to be systemic. It's got to be ongoing. It's got to be regular. It's got to ultimately have a life of its own. And we do need the right process improvement method, of course. But, if it's not working really well for you now, and you think, okay, well, we're currently using some kind of Six Sigma method, and we're going to change to, say, Sprint Pip, well, that may not solve the problem for you. You know, all of the common process improvement methods get to be common process improvement methods because they work. One way or another, they work. You know, there is a kind of Darwinian principle involved here. A process improvement method that doesn't work disappears. So the ones that we have left work. So you do need a method, and preferably one method across the organisation, perhaps tailored to your organisation. But, you know, it may not be just the method. It's not as simple as that. We do need to have a good method, and we need to execute it well and properly, and we need to improve how we do that. But there's a lot more context to process improvement than just selecting the right process analysis and improvement method, the PI circle detail. So no more random acts of management. We need a systemic system in which lots of people are involved, and there's good leadership and very good communication about what's working and what's not. And that allows us to deliver what is the purpose of process-based management, of course, and that is the improvement of processes. Thanks for joining me for this Process Insight. There are many other videos in this series that discuss aspects of managing process performance. You can find all the published ones on this channel. If you subscribe, you'll be notified about new videos as they're released each week. Plenty more information below and at my website about process-based management and the related services that I provide. You have my contact details. I'd be delighted to connect. And thanks for sharing this time with me. If you'd like to continue the conversation, I'd love to hear from you.